Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to another round of Spark Innovation. We are really excited to wrap up this week that's focused on engagement. We were talking about students on Tuesday, and today is about families. And so thank you again for taking time to join us. We have just a few more weeks left and hope that you are able to include some of these ideas into your application. You know, if we really want to reimagine schools to transform students' lives, it starts with these kind of sparks of innovation. And just as a friendly reminder, what you turn in August doesn't have to be the final thing. We understand that this is going to be iterative. The world is constantly changing, but we hope this gives you a nice starting point, or at least some place to kick you off, if you will. A few quick housekeepings. I'm going to quickly drop in the chat the link to the webpage for Spark Innovation. So if you do want to access this recording, the one-page summary, or this deck, you can do so on that webpage. At any point, it's updated the day after each session. And then if you do have questions, myself and Maddie will be in the background able to answer them, but Judy and Ann will take great care of all of you. And I didn't introduce myself yet. My name's Tanya. I've seen a few of you on the call so far, and I'm happy to be helping out with all things ARP ESSER. And then my colleague, Maddie.
Afternoon, everyone. I'm Maddie Chayka. I work in the Office of the Commissioner here at the Department of Education. I've also been helping out with the ARP ESSER initiatives.
And without further ado, we want to get started because today is really interesting and really important. I don't think often we pause to think about the role of a family. Obviously, we care about accelerating the learning for our students, but what role can families play in this new normal? So I'm very excited and honored to hand it over to Judy and Ann, who will take us through our session today.
Thanks, Tanya. Really pleased to be here and have this opportunity to talk to folks about family engagement. So I'm Judy Carson, and my work in the department is School Family Community Partnerships, and I'm joined by my colleague, Dr. Ann Mead, who is the Director for Family and Community Engagement in Danbury Public Schools. I want to start by using this quote from Dr. Miguel Cardona. He mentioned that states are revisiting what it means to have families engaged. In the pandemic, we know this so well, taught educators the need to be nimble, flexible, and meet families where they are. And they couldn't use the same strategies that were ineffective prior to the pandemic. But let's take a look at strategies really quickly, just to get a sense of what do we mean by high impact and lower impact. So this is a scan of common strategies that districts use and schools use to work with families. And if you zero in on that purple circle towards high impact, you'll notice a few common elements with these practices, like home visits, positive phone calls, goal-setting talks, weekly data sharing folders. What these practices tend to have in common is that they build relationships, they build trust, they give families individualized and specific information that's actionable, that they can use to help their students. And that's exactly what families are asking for. So what we want to do is shift towards high impact practice. And today we're going to look at the systems at the district and school level that help get us there. The why, we know family engagement makes a difference. When families are engaged, students do better in their education. They go on to higher education. They're more successful in many, many ways. But a really interesting question. What predicts whether families are engaged in the first place? Dr. Joyce Epstein has found through many years of research the strongest, most consistent predictors of parent involvement at home and school are specific school programs and, importantly, teacher practices. This is really good news because these are things that we can control, we can develop, we can improve. So today we're going to talk about 3 buckets of work that districts and schools engage in when they build these really strong systems and they support families to become engaged. Number 1, district systems and leadership. That's at the top because that's where we start. School capacity and family capacity both are ongoing development projects. And at the center, student learning. Many of you may know Dr. Karen Knapp's work in the dual capacity building framework. That's been out since about 2014 and was recently revised to include some more information from the past few years where people have been using the framework. But at the heart of the framework are the conditions that districts set to embed family engagement in their work. It's systemic, it's embraced across the leadership, it's integrated in all strategies, and it's sustained with resources and an infrastructure. Michelle Brooks, who's a colleague of Karen Mapps, recently put out a report that takes a look at how districts built these conditions that make a difference. And she uses a number of case studies and walks people through the important elements and the important considerations that are made at the district level. And just to focus in on one of the key questions, how does our district define and articulate what family engagement means to us and how we use it as a lever for student achievement? And I want to mention that in the Department of Education, we took about a year to do this very process, to ask what family engagement means to us in the department. But really importantly, we talked with many, many families, professionals, and community members throughout Connecticut, and we synthesized all of that information, and this was the definition that arose from that work, that family engagement is full, equal, and equitable partnerships. And families felt really strongly about that word partnership. They preferred it over involvement or engagement because to them, partnership feels like we may have different roles, but we have equal status. Also in this process, we uncovered what we called indicators or guiding principles. How do we know we're doing this work, this full, equal, and equitable partnership? These are key elements. These are also aligned perfectly with the research. And it's building trust and respect is number one, because that's number one. If we skip that step, we're not going to have relationships that make a difference. Listening to families is how we get there to build trust and respect. Have to anchor this in student learning. And of course, this work has to be culturally responsive and see families as assets. So when we take this approach and look at building a system, the foundational piece, and I know we're focused on many, many things in our districts right now, but this is really job one, to create that time, that professional development and time for educators to collaborate with families. And we hear that so often, if I only had more time. How can we use this opportunity in our ARP ESSER funds to create time to build this work? And you're going to hear from Ann in just a moment, but the districts who have done this and who were able to meet the moment when the pandemic hit had some of these pieces in place. Number one, a senior level director who was already doing this work across the system. That made a big difference in how quickly districts could pivot. Family liaisons, and that's been a common practice for quite some time. Those are very important for relationship building, but family liaisons, although a wonderful strategy, is incomplete because we also need that information that's coming out of the classroom from our teachers and our educators and linking that to our relationships with families. And so an idea to do this, and this is a new idea that is coming online now, are embedded family engagement coaches in our schools. We have literacy coaches, we have math coaches. The idea is to use that same strategy for our staff that have a real interest in family engagement. They develop their professional capacity and they're a resource to the other staff in that school. And then school action teams, and that's how we come together with our families and we hear families' voices as we're developing plans that are going to make a difference. And as you'll see, there's links throughout these slides. There's many resources linked here. There's also a summary page that goes along with this that has additional resources that are research-based and actionable. So the goals I would suggest for schools and districts right now are just two. Number one, building those trusting, respectful relationships. That has to come first. And there's some wonderful tools to do that. And there's training available. And I want to call out specifically parent-teacher home visits. And that's a model that Connecticut is really investing in. We have training available. And it's exactly what it sounds like. Teachers go and do home visits. Totally voluntary on the part of the family and the teacher, although teachers are compensated. And it's really about building a relationship. It's not about telling families what to do. It's about listening to families. In these home visits, the families are the experts and the teachers are there to learn from and with families. The research on this is robust, and we've seen increases in scores for math, scores for reading, SEL improves, and importantly, the cultural competence is also improving as families are getting to know as teachers are getting to know families in their homes and learning more about their students' lives. And then the teachers can bring that into their classrooms and into their instruction. And interestingly, when this is approached in a school-wide program, even students who aren't visited, they improve as well. So we see whole school effects from this program. It's definitely something worth looking at. The second priority, linking family engagement to student learning. So what do families want to know? They want to know, how's my child doing? What are they learning now? And how can I help? And many families got a lot closer to this information during the pandemic, and they appreciated that information. They appreciated their teachers even more, and they want to continue having that kind of information and being able to act on supporting their students at home. And again, a number of really good resources to help teachers develop the capacity to have those conversations with families and support them in doing this work and develop that homeschool partnership. And so families, how do we build families' capacity with them? And so the first part of this slideshow talked about really looking in the mirror. How do we improve our systems so that schools aren't hard to reach? Many times schools feel families are hard to reach. Sometimes families tell me schools are hard to reach. And so we talk first about building our system capacity. Then as we're looking to build capacity with families, there's a number of approaches. A lot of districts are doing parent academies or parent universities. There's parent leadership training. There's parent cafes, which are really very organic and bring parents into conversations with educators. So I would say very importantly, as we're looking at these capacity building approaches with families, that we include educators so that we have an opportunity for that dual capacity building throughout all of these strategies. That's a very quick overview of some important levers that can be used at the district and school level. And so I now want to turn it over to my colleague Ann Mead, Director of Family School Partnerships in Danbury, who has been doing much of this work, and she's building her plan for the Art Besser funds in Danbury. So I'm going to stop sharing my slides at this point and turn it over to Ann.
Great, thank you, Judy. That was wonderful. What a great foundation to build the work that we're doing here in Danbury. So greetings, everyone, from Danbury Public Schools. I'm the Director of Family School Community Partnerships for the district, a position that I've been in many different ways over the years in many different settings, but finally really formalized in the last couple of years. And so we realized that we needed to step up our game with our families. We realized that parents needed us more, especially with the pandemic. But more so, we heard from teachers reaching out to myself and my colleagues and saying, help. I really want to be able to understand my parents better. I really want to understand their families, their backgrounds. And so, you know, what do I need to do to become more fluent in being able to work with our families? And so in preparation of putting an application in for the ESSER funds, we did run several different community forums with families, with teachers, with our board, and with the community in general. And we really listened to what they were telling us. You know, they're the consumers of everything that we do. And that's where all the ideas were generated from of what we decided to put into our application. So as Judy mentioned earlier, family school liaisons. About 40 to 50% of our population here in Danbury, our parent population, does not speak English. And so sending their child to a school where there's not someone that can talk to them, help solve problems, day-to-day issues is really tough on families. We did put in a program called Language Links out of somewhere out west a few years ago to be able to help with real-time translation on or interpretation on the phones. But we wanted to step up our game more. So we are in the process of hiring family liaisons, and we're calling them family versus parent liaisons because we are cognizant that our families come from many different walks of life. And also our typical family may not be a biological mom and dad, but grandparents, aunts, uncles, foster parents, and other guardians. So we are calling them family liaisons. So as they're hired, they'll go through a fairly rigorous, I guess is the word I want, training. We'll bring in the Welcoming Schools curriculum from CREP, which is another resource here that we have in the state. We will do a lot of tabletop activities with our folks coming in for circumstances, de-escalation, things like that. We'll have what I'm going to call speed dating with our community partners so that the family liaisons can be refreshed again on all the community resources that Danbury does have that they can refer to. And then we will have monthly sessions with math and literacy coaches. We'll delve into topics that they're asking for to raise their skills. Second, we decided that at this point, putting in the parent-teacher home visiting model was not something we could do right away. But however, we felt that having bridge visits for our incoming kindergarten families were very, very important. We feel like last year we didn't do a lot of the open houses and all those pre-opening activities that you do. And so we are asking kindergarten teachers, and they'll be trained to do an hour visit via phone or via Zoom or whatever platform they choose to use, to ask one leading question. What are your hopes and dreams for your child? And that will start off the conversation between the families and the teachers. They can talk about one another, a little bit about their own goals for their class, but it really starts that conversation focused on what are the goals and dreams for that family of their child. And as parents, for those of you that are parents, you know that you can always talk about that. So that will be a comfortable place. We're hoping that the kindergarten teachers will work alongside the family liaisons because there may need to be some translations done. Our third thing that we heard back from our parents is they liked to be able to email a teacher. They liked to be able to call the office and leave a message, but they didn't always get that call back right away. And wasn't there a better way to communicate with their teachers? And so I convened our parent advisory group, and we brought in 3 or 4 vendors to look at that provide communication systems with our families. So we are going to Parent Square out of the Midwest. Starting at the beginning part of the year. And what we saw with Parent Square is you think about all the ways that you talk with your families in the district, and then take all those spaghetti strings and loop them into more of a cord that Parent Square has. And so your information is streamlined in very different ways. So families can receive Parent Square on their phone, okay, as an application, or on their computer. And think about, for your parents that may have a child in elementary school, 1 in middle, and maybe 2 in high school, how many robocalls a day potentially could they get? And so the nice thing about Parent Square is it allows parents to get the alert, school's closing, there's no school, there's an emergency at your child's school, but then parents can opt out of other daily robocalls, but get a digest at the end of the day. So they can open up their program at their leisure in the evening and be able to see all of the messages that have come out of school, out of their 3 children's schools in that example that I used, and then take time to read and respond to them. The other part that we felt was very important to us was to be able to, in empower parents to be able to reach out to their child's teacher. So instead of using the email or leaving a phone message at the main office, once a teacher has set up their classroom, they can also set up teaching hours or office hours if they will. And parents then can initiate conversations with the child's teacher, and that becomes that bi-directional communication. And so our families felt that that was very important, that they didn't always have to wait for the call back from the teacher, but they could do it themselves. And then teachers can set parameters around when they take those calls. Okay. Thirdly, we are building on what we have started with our Family University that was 1 time a year. We're now going to 3 times a year. And so that will be part of the family liaison's responsibilities to help build that particular family university, its topics, how it's done. You know, we're not too sure what it's going to look like when we go back to school. And so we're looking at virtual probably for the first one in the fall, and then hopefully by the spring we'll be able to have them in person. But Family University will complement other workshops that we'll be doing through many of our different grants that we have, so that it'll be like a cafeteria plan for parents to be able to pick and choose what they feel is important to learn about for their family. And all of these things, as Judy showed you in her previous slides, talks about that dual capacity that Karen Mapp has, and then the Connecticut framework for family and school engagement. And every single one of those documents talk about building the capacity of both staff and of our families. And so we feel that this will help build those trusting relationships with our families. The other 2 things that I would highly recommend, I'm sorry, we're in a school that hasn't shut off their system to change classes. When we went totally virtual back a year and a half ago, I set up a shared folder with all the teachers and the administrators of all different types of family engagement resources. From scripts they could use with parents to resources to sharing information, conflict resolution and things like that. And so I'm able to track who's in the folder, who isn't in the folder, and then what other information that teachers may use to build those relationships. So that's been huge. Lastly, our district has been fortunate to receive some funding to have book clubs in several different locations in the district based on the Zaretta Hammond book, Cultural Responsive Curriculum in the Brain. Wonderful book. If you haven't had a chance to read it, it's great summer reading, rather dense, but her concepts and her ideas for really building those trusting relationships with families that then lead to better academic scores with our children. She just does hits it out of the ballpark for really being on target and on task with thinking about just not that surface culture, but what's that down deep culture? What are the family stories that as teachers and as administrators that we can help understand, that then also builds the capacity of us to understand our families. So I hope this has given you some information about what we're doing here in Danbury. As I said in the beginning, we listened to what our families said. We listened to what they asked for. And from that, this is how we wrote our ESSER plan that is being submitted in August. So, and I'll turn it back over to Judy. Thank you.
Great. Thanks, Anne, so much. And we're going to put Anne's contact info in the chat. So I know many people will want to reach out and hear more. And Anne is one of my go-to people in the state, a depth of experience and expertise. So thank you, Anne.
Thank you, Judy.
Incredible. Thank you both so much. And something that really came to mind, and Judy, we spoke about this earlier this week, is when you work with your families in partnership, you're intervening in a way of a vaccine, right? Something that is planning for the future. This will be helpful now as we recover from COVID-19, but also for the future. Of course, we need to be making some investments in ARP ESSER that are more of an antibiotic that is a direct response to what's happened over the last year. But really deeply engaging and partnering with families is only going to serve everybody well for the very, very long term now in the new normal as well. So thank you both for this really, really fruitful and helpful information. And again, it will all be provided at that link. I'll drop it again just so you have it in the chat. You can also find both Judy and Anne's email addresses. And as we've been saying throughout this whole process of Spark Innovation, we're all in this together, and this deep partnership is going to be necessary, not only within our school district, but across the state. So please feel free to reach out to each other, connect. And if you have any ideas that you're seeing either in your own school district or elsewhere that you find really exciting and innovative, please let us know. Because like I said, yes, your applications are due in August, but there's a lot of work to be done that will go far beyond just the beginning of August. And with that, we'll actually give you your afternoon back. Thank you so much for joining us, and thank you so much, ladies, for this really helpful discussion about partnering with our parents, our families, our caregivers, and our communities. And we hope to see you all next week as we dig into how we can engage and support our educators and our workforce, as well as social emotional learning and supports, which is very, very important after the pandemic that we've had. Have a wonderful weekend, everybody. Enjoy the sunshine that we're finally getting, and we will see you next week for another round of Spark Innovation.